Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Ali and I'm a junior doctor working in Cambridge, and this is the very first video in a new series called Medical Mondays. So basically, when I started this channel initially, I thought the audience would be almost exclusively medicine applicants and medical students, but now, thanks to some of the videos, it seems to have expanded a lot beyond that. So I still want to be making really niche videos for medical students and medicine applicants, but I don't want to kind of confuse everyone else who watches this channel. So all of those videos are going to be shoved into Mondays, into this new series called Medical Mondays. So with that intro out of the way, this video is a really long and really niche video aimed exclusively at people who have applied to medicine in the UK and who didn't get any offers or who didn't make their offers. And this is like a 30-minute long interview with my friend Anton. It was filmed a few months ago. I completely forgot that it existed. But we talk through quite a lot of really good stuff. Anton reapplied to medicine. He didn't get any offers the first time around, but then he got into Cambridge the second time around. So he's got some pretty legit advice on what you can do if you're in that position of not getting any offers or not making your offer. So that's my intro. Welcome to Medical Mondays. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this interview, and everything, of course, is going to be in the timestamps in the description below. So yeah, let's roll this fancy new intro and we'll get into me and Anton from like 6 months ago. Enjoy. Anton is a good friend of mine. He is a fellow final year medic at Emmanuel College. And we're doing this interview because Anton has an interesting story in that he got into medicine second time round. And we were chatting about this the other day when I was preparing another video about what to do if you don't have any offers. That'll be linked up there and down here and everywhere. But Anton's really had some good, practical, actionable advice. And I think from someone who's actually gotten in second time round, I thought it would be really good for him to kind of chat to you guys about it, if that's all right.
That'd be absolutely fine, I mean. Hopefully it's helpful for you guys too.
Great, so could we start, if you wouldn't mind sharing how you felt when you didn't get any offers first time around?
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely gutting. You know, it takes a while because they kind of trickle in slowly. And I actually got one interview, so I kind of had that one. It was Nottingham, and the rest were straight rejections. I was just absolutely devastated though when the final one came through saying, no, you haven't got in. And I remember thinking, oh God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do for the rest of this year? You know, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? Like, is medicine worth it? I think there was a lot of self-doubt that came in originally. Like, am I good enough? You know, have they seen something in me that I didn't see originally? You know, am I just not going to be cut out for this course? But you know, I think friends, family kind of pull you through, telling you that actually, you know, you are good. These things happen, and I think you just do have to remember that, you know, you're going to get knocks in life, and you just got to get back up and get back out there, essentially. But yeah, it was absolutely gutting. Give yourself a week to kind of mope around and think, God, this is awful, and then think, right, what do I do about it? You've got to get back on, be practical. And I think the first question you've got to ask yourself really is, actually, do I want to do medicine? Because if you do, the next year is going to be quite tough. You know, there's going to be a lot for you to do. You know, and I had friends who did the same as me, got 4 rejections, and then they actually decided that medicine wasn't for them and went off to do other things. And I think that's fair enough for some people. Definitely wasn't the case for me, and I guess if you're watching this, you're probably one of those people that thinks, no, you know what, I definitely want to do medicine. But yeah, initially, terrible. Okay. You feel crap, but you get over it quite quickly.
Okay, thanks for sharing. So it sounds like, yeah, it's pretty terrible feeling initially, but and you give yourself a week to mope, and then you make a plan. Yeah. So
yeah, it's definitely about kind of getting on top of it, getting a plan ready.
So can you tell us a bit about your plan and kind of what advice you give to people who might be in that position?
Yeah, I guess I looked at it because it's actually, you know, it's a few months before the end of the academic year, so you actually have more than a year. You've got about 6 months before the next application process, roughly. You know that, you know, personal statements are going to come around next September, and it's actually kind of April time latest that you're going to find out that you've not got in. So you've got a few months there, and you've got to think, what did I have wrong with my application that is you know, that I can change, that I can get better in this time. And quite a useful thing that we did, I went to my school, went to my senior tutor, and said, look, what's wrong with my application? And he went, okay, we'll email the universities you've applied to. You know, you apply for 4, only got 1 reply, but that 1 reply was invaluable. It was from Leeds, and they sent me back a sheet of paper that essentially broke down my application. They scored you out 40 points, I think it was, and you had to get 35 or more to get an interview. and I got 34. So I knew that I was actually pretty close to even getting to interview. I just had to change a few bits, improve, make a few tweaks here and there. And then my main problem was my personal statement. Everyone's is going to be different slightly, but having said that, almost all the points were available for personal statement. It was out, I think 40, I think it was, and it was like 10 were on academics and about 25 were on personal statement. So it's definitely where you can gain the most marks, having a good personal statement.
Okay, so what kind of stuff did they ask you to put in your personal statement that you didn't have first time round?
Yeah, good question. I think the experiences were the big difference. And what I mean by that is all that stuff, that hoop jumping that I thought was rubbish the first time around. I was like, oh, you don't need to go and shadow a doctor for 12 months. You don't need to have gone into an old people's home or a care home, gone and helped children with learning disabilities, anything like that. I thought, what a load of rubbish, that's not really necessary. And I think it only took me until actually being in medical school to realise quite why they do that. And looking back on it now, I see why they want you to have done that. And so if you're sitting there thinking, God, that is rubbish and it's boring, and what am I learning from it? What am I gaining from going? I think realistically, you're probably not learning a lot. You're definitely not learning medicine. What they're doing is they're asking you to show that you're willing to sacrifice your own free time and your own kind of social hours, that sort of thing, to do something that, quite honestly, none of us really wanted to do. Let's be honest with ourselves. You don't sit there and go, yeah, can't wait to go in and into the care home and just serve tea. It's boring. You get there. It's usually actually fun. I found it was actually alright.
It's just
I dreaded going.
Yeah.
But I loved it when I got there. So don't be put off by doing these things. they're good fun, really. But there's a lot of dread going into them. And fear, like you're going to make a fool of yourself or drop tea on someone, that sort of thing. But what they want you to do is just show that you're willing to sacrifice your time, your energy, efforts, all that sort of thing, on something that you don't want to do. Because actually, medicine is a lot about that, as I'm sure Ali will tell you. There's lots of times that I've been asked to do a rectal examination, and I thought to myself, this is not what I wanted to be doing. But that's what medicine's about. It's about sacrificing, and how many times have we had to give up weekends and social events for something, a deadline, whatever, and that's just all this stuff's just proof of that.
So it sounds like all of this whole work experience, just this jumping through hoops thing. I've actually done a video about how to answer the question about what did you learn in your work experience, where I make the point that I personally didn't find work experience that useful because you don't really learn anything medicine related. But I guess what Anton is saying is that actually the point of work experience isn't necessarily that you're learning anything in particular. It's at the very least just to show them that you have thought about this enough and you're dedicated to studying medicine enough to jump through all these hoops. And given the tens of thousands of people applying to medicine, having that as like a barrier to entry, that we need someone to have done some kind of work experience, some kind of volunteering, some kind of charity work over a long period of time, that's a good way of screening certain people out, because everyone is going to have good grades. You need other things to block people from getting into medicine, as bad as that sounds.
Exactly, yeah. I think that's exactly much better said than I could, Ali. But I think just on those points, there's some other things that my personal statement, I think second time around was better. It was some of the opportunities that came up in the year off that I had, and also what you do with your year. I don't think it reflects particularly well on you if you just go and take daddy's money and fly off somewhere and spend the year away. And they don't reflect particularly well on that, in why I feel like they wouldn't anyway. I went and got a job because I thought, well, I'm going to need money. And actually, a lot of my interviews after that, they quite liked that. They were asking me, how did I find working in a bar? Because I just picked a job. I got quite lucky actually, and I think it's another thing you could definitely try. I approached my local GP and asked if they had any jobs, and I ended up doing an admin role in a GP practice, which they thought was really good. I was actually doing audits, which we didn't start doing until kind of fourth year of medical school, but actually it turns out they're quite important, and I've done about 50 of them because it used to be my day job. Okay. Whereas we had to do like one a year, so they look very favourable, but I just stumbled on that. It was accidental. But I'd say, go and do something with your time. You've got a year, exactly as Ali said, planning, preparing for it, knowing that you've got a year to kind of do something with. I went away at the end of it, but once I'd done a few other bits as well, you can't just run off, go see the world because you've got some time. make sure that if you're going for medicine, you've got to make your application good, and that means getting a job, so that you've got some life experience. They quite liked that. That means doing this work experience and volunteering, and it means kind of making sure your personal statement is well written. You've got a lot of time to think about it.
Okay, so in terms of sort of tactical advice that we've discussed so far, we've talked about number one, spend about a week moping and then get over it and make a plan.
Yeah.
Number two, try and get feedback from universities if you can. I think the really specific feedback that you got from Leeds really helped your application second time round.
Definitely.
Because they basically told you everything they wanted to see in a personal statement.
Just with practicalities of that, I mean, I got my school to do it, so I don't know exactly who they emailed, but I think it was the admissions office.
Oh, okay. And I guess it's more legit coming from your school than from a random person being like, I didn't get all feedback.
I mean, if your school aren't willing, try it. There's no harm, but the school was much easier for them to send it.
Like, actually, when I got my UCL rejection, I emailed them specifically asking for feedback, and they gave really good feedback, which I will talk about some other time. And we've talked about things you can do to improve your personal statement. So just on that note, Anton's got both copies of his personal statement with him. Would you mind just taking us through some of the things that were different between the rejected one and the accepted one? Because you got into Cambridge second time round, so you must have done something right.
There was a lot of differences, I suppose. As I mentioned before, the main one being the amount of experiences that I had. So, and just as a kind of evidence of that, I'm sure Ali will bring all this up for you to see. My kind of third paragraph in my unsuccessful one is all about how I kind of did some tutoring with a friend. I've edited out a few lines just because they were a bit personal to me, but it was like a whole paragraph on this because it was one of my main experiences. Whereas in my successful one, it became a single line in kind of the fourth or fifth paragraph that just said, I tutored a friend, because I had so little room by this point because of all my other experiences. That first paragraph, you start off with your intro paragraph, right? Just saying some kind of cheesy line about how much you want to do medicine, whatever.
Yep.
And you can see mine, but they actually changed quite a lot. You can see how I just padded it out. I realised that the intro is actually a lot more important than just a line. My ambition in life is to do something meaningful, to be able to look back at the end and be proud of what I've achieved. No profession other than medicine will adequately fulfil that ambition for me. That was it.
Okay, and then in your legit one,
the updated version.
Could you read that up for us? And we'll flash it up on the screen as well.
My ambition in life is to accomplish something meaningful, to be able to look back at the end and be proud of what I've achieved. This goal, together with my love of science, eagerness to learn, and desire to care for others, motivates me to pursue a career in medicine. My initial interest in medicine came when I studied its history, giving me an insight into the work and influence of many great individuals, such as Ignaz Semmelweis and Ambroise Paré, who pioneered the use of ligatures, invented the crow's beak.
Nice.
These people inspired me, and I hope one day to be involved in research of something as influential. I can think of no more a noble or honourable profession. It would be a privilege to practice medicine.
Oh yes, that's absolutely
glorious. That's your 90,000 drafts for you. Yeah.
Okay, so that's just an example of the introduction, and if it's alright with you, if you don't mind if we put them up,
of course,
and we'll link them in the description so you can just have a look at the before and after.
People, don't be ripping me off, but please have a look and see if you can pull anything from yourself, even just things like structure. You can see that I've gone with quite a standard, I think. I don't know, Ali's presumably done a video review about your personal statements.
We have.
I went with kind of intro and then talking about experiences straight away. That's straight in for it.
Yep.
But Ali, you can see the difference between the experiences. The first one I'm padding out as much as possible because I've done very little. I'd been to a GP for a few days and I'd shadowed a surgeon, I think, and I made it into like a very wordy sentence that was like, I've done. So I'll read it. I also shadowed a laparoscopic general surgeon in Colchester General Hospital for 3 days, whereas the other one I've just kind of gone, and I saw a surgeon. It was much quicker because I was just running out of room because I had lots of things. I actually did a few other bits that are not even in my personal statement that I thought were quite useful because they came up in interviews as well. Like I found lots of unusual experiences, like shadowing a coroner, which was quite interesting. I just did it for like 2 days.
Yeah.
And it's not something that you traditionally think of as medicine, but we'll know now. We get quite a lot of it. Actually, the coroner is really important. It's also to do with death certification, and they quite like that I found something unusual to see, and didn't even fit into my personal statement. I don't think there might have been a line I can't remember, but I don't think it did. So, anything more you'd like to add from the personal statement?
When we were talking earlier, you mentioned that being 18 helps with some of your experiences.
I just found that when I was trying to get work experience in the hospital, originally I was denied because I wasn't 18, and I don't know if that's a national rule or whatever. That was just where I'm from. That's what they said, but I don't know. But I was able to kind of get, once I turned 18, I guess for some of you, if you're born late in the year, that might not be that useful in some ways. It might come a bit late, but I was able to actually get a role in the hospital I was working in the X-ray department, and I think that really helped actually seeing. I was actually able to help, not just shadow around someone. I was actually in the X-ray department helping move films, because they still used films back then, big plates actually. To and from, and help patients get in and out of the X-ray, and it was quite nice just to be able to have that again extra stuff that you can't get access to without a year off actually, or for us. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So again, going back to practical advice, number one, get feedback from universities. Maybe get your school to get it, so it sounds more legit. Number two, sort your personal statement out. Do more and more work experience, more and more volunteering if that's what you were missing. And I think, I don't know if Leeds said, did they have any points for extracurriculars, anything like that?
Yeah, there was points for just being involved in your sports team, that sort of thing. They're not looking for a high level. You don't have to be an Olympic athlete. I just played football for 2 teams. I captained both of them, which probably helped in some ways, but that was what I played, football. I think as long as you've got something that you do, that they do like you to have a life outside of medicine. They really like you to have a life outside of medicine.
And actually, on that note, when I was applying to medicine, our head of admissions to universities at school told us an interesting story. It was he went to a private school for some random social function or something, and it was one of their getting into medicine talks, and they had like 50-60 people applying to medicine and all actively getting in. And what their head of admissions said to everyone is that, right, hands up if you're not on a sports team for the school. And a few people put their hands up, and he was like, right, Johnny, you're now on the dive team. Tom, you're now on the basketball. And it's like, it's just like, it kind of goes to show how much of a game this whole medicine application thing is.
Yeah, it can be very much a game. Yeah.
So I think
there is a tick box for extracurricular.
Yeah, exactly. So if you don't have a sports thing on your personal statement, you have a year to become interested in a sport. Join the local badminton club, join the local squash club. They're very happy to accept beginners. There's so much you can do to kind of get all these points in your personal statement, because the personal statement is probably the thing that you can improve more than your grades, really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because you can resit, but I think by the time you've resat, it's already too late. So you're then kind of looking at just applying with predicteds again. Whereas because I didn't resit anything, I was able to get an unconditional offer. But on Ali's note of sports as well, you've got to remember that there's probably most of your friends, or depending what school you're at and stuff, but they'll probably go off and do things, right? Quite a few of them might go to uni, which can mean it's quite lonely this year off in some way. So joining a sports team can be fantastic. I actually took up golf. That was my thing, because I had a few mates around. You've got a few. There was always going to be some that stay around. There were 3 of us, and we decided that we couldn't. There was no sport we could play for 3 very well. So we took up golf, because you can play that as a 3. It was purely logistical rather than. And I love golf now, but I'm not very good. But I'd say go and joining your local badminton club can just give you some people to go and see on a Friday night. When a lot of your friends aren't going to be around there at term.
Okay. Could you tell us a bit about kind of what advice you'd give to people retaking exams or anything like that? I know that you didn't reset, but you must have had.
Yeah, the 2 guys I was with both resat exams. Okay. It's easier because you're looking back on it a year later and you've got a lot of time, especially if you only pick 1 or 2. If you went and resat the whole year, you're looking at just as hard as the first year. But if you just pick the modules that you really need to bump up, you can actually do really well because you've got so much time to give to it, and the only other commitments you have are a job or whatever, but you can start off part-time if you need to. I was lucky that my parents didn't make me pay rent and things, so I could live rent-free and stuff. So it depends on your situations, but I just went part-time for the initial bit and then increased my work to full-time as I got kind of more bored, to be honest.
Okay, and again, when we were talking earlier, you mentioned that having this kind of money that you made on your gap year really helped you throughout university. Could you?
Definitely. I mean, I ended up working, like I say, full time because it was quite fun. For one thing, work becomes a bit of something to do, and rather than just sitting around at home on your own. So, I probably earned well over £10,000 in the year working pretty much full time with more than minimum wage. Because the GP work was pretty well paid actually, and a lot of that I spent some of it going away. That was really nice. I went away for a couple of months just before coming to university, with no stresses, no pressures. I had my place, had my applications all done, so that was really nice, and I was already 18, etc, etc. So it's really good time to go away at that point. But then I actually kept quite a lot of it, and it's floated me definitely through university. Each year I've just had this backup of quite a chunk of money that's just about run out, I'd say, but it got me through. I don't know what I'd have done without it, but you know, there was always another way. But it was really helpful, really helpful to give me like a slightly more comfortable one, and meaning I didn't have to work while I was here.
So if you were to kind of hypothesize, kind of had you gotten in first time round versus taking that gap year and getting in second time round, do you think that overall you're glad that you took the gap year, or did you still kind of wish that you'd been a year ahead?
Yeah, no, I'm really glad actually. I think it worked really well for me. I got into a university that I didn't apply to Cambridge first time round thinking I definitely wouldn't get in or whatever, and I did it on a whim the second time round. And so that was an improvement for me. So in that sense, you know, it might not be perhaps Cambridge that you're looking at, it might be some other universities, but you might be able to get one that you didn't think you were able to the first time around, because actually your personal statement is loads better. You've got that grade that you missed out on, etc. Does that make sense? So you're kind of able to go, you know what, actually I can push for that slightly higher one. Maybe just one of your applications, you know, leave the other three pretty much similar. So that worked out. Yeah. The actual life experiences were really good. I think it's been very useful to have had a job. You know, you get perhaps, you know, as a doctor you're going to be treating the general public, and it's quite nice to have been in there and seen what a 9 to 5 looks like and be able to understand it, you know, because we do very different, our lifestyle's very different. Additionally, you know, going away was great. And meeting all these guys was pretty good as well.
Oh yeah, because if you'd got in first time, we wouldn't have ever met.
Yeah. Oh. Never have met. So it certainly wasn't, you know, it felt devastating when it happened that I didn't get in. Actually, a year's nothing. It really doesn't make a big difference, and you know, I don't think these guys think I'm ancient just yet. Although it was funny when an F2 the other day told me she was the same age as me.
Oh wow, okay.
That's because I intercalate. She didn't intercalate and I had the year off.
Oh yeah, okay. Okay, so final few things I wanted to talk to you about. Firstly, could you tell us about your 5th choice and your tactic for that?
Yeah, so I mean, in my first application, I didn't bother with a 5th choice because I thought I want to do medicine, and if I don't get it, I won't. I'll reapply. Yep. So I already had that in mind, and then even though when it happened, I didn't feel that prepared for it. I'd already kind of in my head told myself I'm not going to bother.
Yep.
So my decision was kind of clear. I'm going to reapply there. But second time around, I went with Newcastle to do. I think it's biomedicine. Could be biochemistry. Can't remember exactly, but I think biomedicine. And the whole reason behind that was that they offer a transfer straight from the biomedical course to medicine, and these are highly competitive once you're in the course, but I kind of thought I'm not going to have another year off. I'm going to accept it. I'm going to go down that route and try and get into medicine that way if I don't get in another way.
Okay, so in terms of 5th choice then, presumably there's like a list of universities that offer it as, you know, a segue into medicine.
Yeah, I think there's 4 or 5, you know, Newcastle, Leeds, a few others, I can't remember exactly.
This probably changes. We'll put a link in the description to the Medic portal, who are a famous competitor to 6med. We'll still link to them anyway because, you know, it's a good
thing they've done.
It's a good article that they've done.
So there are a few other ways in. Yeah, you don't have to go through the kind of straight into undergrad and through a couple of other ways.
Okay, awesome. So 5th choice, probably, you know, be tactical. Think about your 5th choice. Be tactical about it.
I mean, and it really helped in one of my interviews.
Yeah.
With
okay.
It was second year round with my Norwich interview. One of the stations was, what would you do if you didn't get in? And one of the was, what would you do if you didn't get in? And I said, well, to be honest with you, this is my second year of applying. So if I didn't get in this time around, I've got a 5th choice. And by this time, I actually already knew that I had my place at Newcastle to do biomed, whatever. And I said I would accept that. I would try and transfer across to medicine, and then if that didn't work, I'd finish the degree and I'd apply as a postgrad. And to be honest, I think she quite liked that answer because it just showed, you know, I'd thought of every avenue to get in and there wasn't going to be any deterring me. I was going to get there eventually.
Yeah. Okay, let's just close these curtains.
Yeah, I'm getting a bit blinded.
Getting a bit blinded by the sun. Oh, okay, no, that's good. That's a good light diffusing by the curtains. How did your interviews go second time round relative to first time round, just generally based on the experience that you had?
Yeah, I just think I remember being asked a couple of questions in the first unsuccessful year, and you know, there were simple questions, the ones that we were all supposed to prepare for. You know, why do you want to do medicine? What sort of experiences have you got? And I just struggled to answer them at times because I found that I didn't have enough experiences to pull on. So they asked me, you know, I can't remember the specific questions, but I remember thinking, I'm using the same example here because I only had 1 or 2 examples. so I could only pull on one, and I was just kind of twisting and forcing them into the different questions that they asked. And be like, why do you want to do medicine? Oh, well, I went to the GP and I really enjoyed it there. Okay, so what sort of experiences have you done to prove that you want to do medicine? Well, I went to the GP, and
Yeah.
so it kind of tricks you out a little bit there. And then the second time around, I felt every question. I hadn't, you prepare, as we all do, for interviews, but some of the questions you don't expect, or you're not quite sure about, but I had enough experiences from that year off, that actually I never felt stuck at any point. I always had something different to say, something new to add. And sometimes it led to a few jokes and stuff as well, which are always good. I remember at the Cambridge interview they asked me, did I prefer working in the bar, or on the other job I did while working at the GP, I did a bit of pharmacy work, and they said, well, which one did you prefer, the bar or the pharmacy? And I couldn't help myself but to say, well, that's like choosing between drugs and alcohol, isn't it? Which did get a bit of a chuckle.
Oh, they must love that.
Yeah.
So it sounds like your application was significantly stronger second time around, and I think that's probably a fair statement to make generally. Once you've taken a gap year, provided you've done something useful with that gap year, your application is very likely going to be better than most other non-gap year applicants. So
I think you've just got that time to make it better. And if you haven't made it better, then you've probably wasted your gap year in that sense.
Yeah. Okay. Had you not gotten in second time, and let's say you didn't have your biomed offer from Newcastle, what would you have done? Would you have reapplied to medicine?
Tough question, I suppose. Because it certainly would have been something I'd have had to think quite hard on. I was absolutely fixed on doing medicine, so I probably would have reapplied, but I would have probably applied to something like biological sciences, thinking I might be able to get in that way and do grad medicine. I think, rather than, I think definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and expecting different results. If I've not got in the second time around, I wouldn't expect to get in the third, because I spent so long making my application better the first time around. That I would have done all the same steps, asked for feedback, why didn't I get in, what was wrong, and if it had been something like your interview technique was terrible, then
spend a year working on
that. Just doing interviews. But actually, on that point, getting jobs is really useful for that, because I had to do about 5 interviews to get a job.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And, they're different types of interviews, but they weren't as scary when I went in.
Yeah.
Because I'd done 5 or 6 by this point.
Cool. Great, so thanks very much for talking to us.
No worries.
So it sounds like, sort of, if I can kind of summarise what we've talked about. Number one, you mentioned that getting rejected was, it was quite a blow, but you got over it about a week and decided that you're going to make an action plan.
Yeah.
Your action plan involved. Your action plan involved getting feedback asking your school to get feedback from the university, and that really helped you kind of mould your personal statement into what they wanted.
In addition, the actual school gave me a bit of feedback on what they thought.
Yeah, sweet. And then, sort of in that gap year, you worked at a GP, got experience that way. You did some more work experience, probably some more volunteering.
All that stuff.
Worked in a bar, just got a job generally, made a bit of money, took up golf as a side hobby, continued with your football. So made quite a lot of use of your gap year. And once you got your Cambridge offer, which was unconditional because you had your grades, then you just went off travelling and had a great time.
Pretty much. Yeah. Okay. Sums it up quite well.
So like all of this stuff it seems to be focused around having a plan of action and making sure you make the absolute most of this gap year as you can. Most people that I've spoken to who do have, in fact everyone I've spoken to who's taken a gap year has been happy that they took a gap year. And I mentioned this in the other video, which you should watch up there and down here and everywhere else. If you make the most of your gap year, if you learn some new skills, if you get more experience, it'll just help you in life, but also for your medicine application.
Yeah, definitely.
And just on that point, if there's another video called 15 ways of tips on how to prepare for your interviews. And one thing everyone says is that you should make a list of talking points that if I get asked about communication skills, if I get asked about empathy, teamwork, why I want to do medicine, you kind of have this bank of experiences that you draw on from. And you mentioned the first time around, all you had was GP, and you kind of tried to shoehorn that into everything, which is pretty obvious when they've asked you 4 questions and you've got the same example for each one. So I think this kind of goes to show that it's even more important to have this bank of experiences that you can just draw on, even if they don't actively ask you about them. It's obviously better to have variety.
Yeah.
Cool. So any kind of parting advice for people who might be in your position where they've not gotten in?
Yeah, just keep positive. It turns out to be one of the best years of your life. So don't get too worked up about it. Don't get too stressed out that you didn't get in. Ultimately, it's probably for the best. I know these guys didn't perhaps, but I wouldn't have met them. All that other stuff. So just keep your head up. work hard, you'll get in eventually.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Anton. And guys, if you have any questions for Anton, just leave a comment down below and I'll get him to make a YouTube account and reply to it. Oh yeah, I just like knock on your door and be like, Anton, mate, please reply to these comments. But yeah, thank you very much. That was really, really useful.
No worries.
If you guys liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. More videos about medicine application as always, and as always, more vlogs and stuff coming about life as a medical student if you're into that sort of thing. So yeah, thanks for watching and we'll see you next time. Bye. Sick. Thank you so much. That's like so useful.
No worries. It was fun.